Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Play, Pause, Rewind, episode 108, and we are on time this week, which is news. Niles, how have you been since our last recording?
I've been good. I've been trying to have fun where I can. Um, Earlier this week, we live in Denver. That's where our podcast is based, Denver, Colorado. And last week actually, I don't know if you know her, Dylan, but there's this drag queen called Trixie Mattel um,
Mhm.
that we really love. She's so fun.
Yeah, the name
She
sounds familiar.
Yeah, she's really big now. Like she's probably as big as RuPaul, something like that. But she was in town for a DJ set at the Ogden Theater, and so we just went, and it was called the Solid Pink Disco, and it was lots of pink, lots of fun, lots of dancing. It was really fun time. So I feel like I'm kind of still riding a little bit of that high
Yeah.
this week, or I'm trying to. I'm trying to bring that fun gay energy into my life. How have you been?
Pretty busy, but pretty good overall. Had some fun plans of the weekend. Did a nice park day with a lot of friends. But other than that, I have been heads down for most of
Mm-hmm.
the time. Last recording, working on
Right.
Rewind. So we had, May the 4th happened the past weekend, which is Star Wars Day, and
Mm-hmm.
our annual Rewind video is out this year. It's on the sequel trilogy. It's a beast of a video, so it's linked in the description as well. If you are interested, please go check it out. That would be awesome. But yeah,
It was so fun. That It was such a
it
fun
was.
conversation.
Yeah. It's too long, so apologies, your audience, for that. I did my best to cut it down, but we like to talk, and talk we did. So
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna do it again. We're talking about a movie this week, as we typically do, and this week we are discussing the Thunderbolts. So,
Thunderbolts.
the yeah. The 36th movie in the long running Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thunderbolts follows a group of anti-heroes who are forced to come together as a team and confront their pasts. Directed by Jake Schreier and written by Eric Pearson, Joanna Kalo, Kurt Busiek. Thunderbolt stars Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Louis Pullman, David Harbour, Wyatt Russell, Hannah John Kamen, Olga Kurylenko, and Geraldine Viswanathan. Viswanathan. Wow, I'm so sorry. Niles, what are your initial non-spoilery thoughts on the Thunderbolts?
I was pretty optimistic going into this movie. I
Mm-hmm.
was very optimistic, and just a few weeks ago we talked about the fourth Captain America movie, and
Mm-hmm.
that was underwhelming in a lot of ways. But I was going into this optimistic. The early reviews were good, and I gotta say, it did not disappoint. This I really did enjoy Thunderbolts, especially when you compare it to that last MCU film. This feels like a home
Mm-hmm.
run. It's just like um, it feels like a well-grounded kind of back to basics entry. I know we've kind of used that language before with like Falcon and the Winter Soldier and some of these kind of other MCU shows that have been coming out, but this really does kind of feel like, okay, just break it down again, make it feel like a real world, make these feel like real people, make the
Mm-hmm.
struggles feel real, and I think they really did a good job this time around. You do need a lot of contextual knowledge going into this movie, like about the
Mm-hmm.
MCU. I mean, like you said, at the top 36th movie in the MCU, that's a lot of content to get through, to be up to date. And like, yeah, if you haven't watched any MCU content from the last 5 years, I would say, like
Mm-hmm.
since the start of the pandemic or even before that, you're going to be really lost in this movie. You're going to be like, who are these characters? Well, who's John Walker? Why is he doing this? Who's Valentina? But like, suffice to say, you and I are very caught up. We know what's going on in this world. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it really did a good job of building on that momentum from previous entries. And yeah, this honestly, I feel like it managed to achieve a similar quality as like some of the Guardians of the Galaxy films, because I think that those are always really good, and I think it's definitely one of the stronger entries in the franchise as a whole, especially lately, with some of those more underwhelming kind of entries from
Mm-hmm.
Phase 4 and whatnot. But
Yeah.
what about you? What are some of your initial thoughts?
I think this feels like a breath of fresh air for the MCU. The characters and their dynamics are really engaging and fun to follow. The movie actually has a message and something to
Mm-hmm.
say. I think they execute it pretty well. Like you mentioned Falcon and the Winter Soldier, something we reviewed very early on in our show and pretty strongly. But at the end of that show, part of the like plot is that the villains of it or the antagonists have like a decent
Right.
point, but it's that thing that a lot of franchise films and TV shows do where it's like, oh, you have a really good point, but then you shoot a child. So it makes your point invalid now. So I have to fight
Mm-hmm.
and kill. And then it ends with Captain America being like, I don't have the answers. That's not my job. And this this movie has like a thesis about its theme, and it I think it kind of nails it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the movie looks good as well. It has a strong visual identity, and it's well shot, and with has well staged action, and that's something that a lot of the MCU movies cut corners on. But this movie, I think like well, we'll talk about it more in spoilers, but there's one shot that's in the trailer where you like almost follow a knife that gets thrown around from character to character,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, oh, there's inventive camera work going on here. They tried more than we're
Mm-hmm.
used to seeing them try. Um, I think there's one little odd element structurally, but it doesn't end up harming the movie all that much, in my opinion. We'll talk about it later. Um, and it seems like we've been calling for this for a long time. It's like the MCU needs to rework their approach to things and maybe give the
Yes.
filmmakers more time to be more expressive and creative in the filmmaking. And our argument is always like less projects is probably more. But
Mm-hmm.
if uh, if this is what a post internal overhaul of Marvel Studios filmmaking looks like, I think that's pretty good news. And
Yeah.
I'll say it's also nice to, for once in a really long time, have a post credit scene that doesn't feel like an empty promise. Nice return to form for that. But any other
Yeah.
non spoiler thoughts before we hop over?
No, I would agree with a lot of what you said. I think the only thing that I push back on a little on your thoughts was just the visuals of the movie. Like, I think that there are some
Mm-hmm.
memorable shots, some memorable moments, and some things that do hang in my mind, like visual sequences. But I think in general, and I think like this is kind of more of a trend across MCU and a lot of modern cinema in a way. It's just like it just
Mm-hmm.
kind of feels gray. It feels a little colorless, and like I think it works for this movie, like the tone that they're going for and the topics that they're
Yeah.
covering in it. Like there's a lot of mental health stuff in here, which we'll get to, and yeah, like I said, there's good sequences like. The Sentry fight and all the kind of stuff that happens in New York. I think that's really cool. But yeah, I just
Mm-hmm.
think that like in general, it's like this some of the coloring in the MCU I think could use a little work sometimes.
Yes, and we'll talk about that more in spoilers too, because I think we're coming at it from two different angles as well.
Yes,
But you want to
probably.
transition over?
Yeah, let's get into spoilers.
All
Um,
right.
yeah, there's not a ton to spoil, I would say, but there are some things definitely for spoilers. But I think right off the bat, before we really dive into some of those spoilers, I just want to say that
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated how the team assembled in this movie. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like in other kinds of like, you look at the Suicide Squad or like that kind of movie, it's like, oh, they all just kind of get grouped together on this mission, and that's when you meet them, or something like that. Or
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're just walking through the prison, and it's like this is your team, he's on your team, he's on your team, kind of deal for these anti-heroes. And I like that this one didn't go down that approach. It was more of this. Uh, it wasn't really a chance meeting. It was more like all of these killer agents come together to this location without knowing that each other are
Mm-hmm.
going to be there, and they're sent there to basically kill each other, and they don't
Yeah.
realize that they're all targets basically. And
Exactly.
I just thought that was clever, you know. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Like they're all Valentina's garbage being sent to take each other out, and they end
yeah,
up realizing that before it's too late for most of them. But
yeah,
Yeah,
It's
I like that element. I like the beginning, the opening with Yelena as well, where she kind of feels like she's just lost and drifting and has no
hmm
purpose anymore. Also, Florence Pugh base jumped off that building. That was a real stunt, which is
wow, I didn't realize
another
that.
yeah, which is another like thing that we're not really used to seeing to that extent in the MCU's. That was kind of cool.
That is awesome. I would like
Hmm.
more of that because that was such a great shot. Just yeah, fantastic way to open the movie. But then like I feel like that's also kind of a how all the assassins meet each other. I feel like that is a
Hmm.
little bit of a trope in thriller spy movies, like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like oh I gotta kill my wife kind of deal. But like
Hmm.
they all got their own little spins on it, I think, and I think it works really well here. Like I said, like it feels original. It feels very like a very effective way to get everyone together really quickly. They're all just trying to finish
Hmm.
this last job, and they all realize, oh, we're screwed, so we need to team up and get out of here.
Yep.
I really liked the opening, and yeah, Yelena's whole opening too, I think, was really strong too.
Yeah. I also like how Bob is just there
Yeah.
and how the hell did you get in here? He's like, I don't know. I was
I don't
just
know. It's just, I woke up 5 minutes ago while you all were fighting.
yeah. But let's jump back and talk about the visuals. We touched on it in non spoilers, but you want to kick us
Yeah.
off?
Yeah. So I feel like, kind of like what I mentioned, a lot of other MCU entries lately, like Quantum Mania, I would say, is an obvious one.
Civil
And I'm
War.
blanking on Civil War. Uh, yeah. Yeah. If I'm getting that one right. Uh, but yeah, I feel like some of these movies that they're pumping out or that they have pumped out,
Hmm.
they just feel kind of gray, little colorless, just from a visual perspective. And
Hmm.
it just kind of feels muddy on screen when you're looking at it. You're like, I just kind of wish it was a little more of a contrast of colors. I wish like things just looked a little bit more colorful and eye catching. And
Hmm.
it's just kind of this gray slate on the screen to be now just to play devil's advocate though, because I think that
Hmm.
the coloring works well here overall because it makes thematic sense considering the tone. Like it still looks a little bland and muddy, but I think it, you know, the visual theme of this movie really blends or merges itself well with the
Hmm.
actual theme of this movie. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And that's why I think like um in a lot of cases with the MCU, the movies are kind of quote unquote gray by default. But
Mm-hmm.
this more style like a stylistic choice. Like it
Sure.
doesn't a lot of MCU movies, like Civil War is the quintessential example, right? The airport fight of that movie. Great action sequence, lots of great character stuff. It's ugly as fuck. And it looks washed out. Everybody, like all of these wonderful, colorful costumes and colorful abilities, and they're all just like undersaturated. But
Yeah.
this movie has a look. Like it's not low contrast. And it just feels like an intentional color palette instead of just gray because that's the way the camera naturally shoots the footage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And I agree. I think it does look stylistically distinct. And if they're going to kind of continue that trend, like I've seen all the Fantastic Four trailers, and I'm like, this looks
Mm-hmm.
great. This looks very colorful. This looks very visually distinctive. Like, I have a high hopes for that movie, so I'm hoping that it nails the landing. And if the MCU just kind of continues on that trend of giving each movie
Mm-hmm.
more of this strong visual identity and not so much like the volume, and you can tell it's the volume, and that's what's kind of
Right.
making it gray, I would say. Um, just
Yeah.
more real locations, good colors. Like I'd like to see more of that
Mm-hmm.
moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, we do have the Russo brothers coming back for Doomsday and Secret Wars, and they are the masters of gray. So I don't know if we're gonna get what we want here, but we'll
Oh
see.
no.
Yeah, I will say the biggest quote unquote plot surprise, and I put that in quotes because it was the running joke throughout the entire marketing campaign about how like Taskmaster was in the footage. Like they were like, I don't know if I've ever seen her outside of that room, and it seems like she's awkwardly CGI'd to shots elsewhere, but doesn't say anything. Never takes her mask off, so I think she's gonna die in that room, and she does. She dies right
Wow.
away.
Who would have thought that that would have happened? Yeah,
Mhm.
you're totally right. Like the whole time you're just thinking, yeah, what is she gonna get anything? Is she gonna be in this movie at all? And you watch the movie, it's like, nope,
Mhm.
she's not really in it. She's in this movie for probably like 5, maybe 2 minutes, and has one
Mhm. Yeah.
line, and then she gets shot in the head in the
I
in
am
the
shocked
bunker.
that the actress was in the movie. That she takes her
Me
mask
too.
off for a second.
Yeah, it's like, why would you even? But I guess you get some money out of it, so yeah, of course you would
Yeah.
show up.
Well,
But yeah, it's like, why would you even have that happen?
in the
Um,
original script, apparently the movie was rewritten substantially, and she, I think, survives the entire movie in the original version of the
oh,
story, which is
interesting.
interesting because what people are saying, and I'll take it with a grain of salt, but it seems like the movie, in large part, was kind of similar, except that Taskmaster is there, and they changed their minds.
Well, that is fascinating because, in my opinion, she's kind of one of those missed opportunities in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because when she was introduced in Black Widow, um, she was just introduced. She didn't.
Mm-hmm.
She had maybe like 2 lines, 3 lines. I can't remember.
Yeah.
She was on the screen for maybe 10 minutes. She had some great action. She was cool. I really liked her on there, but she had nothing there. And then in this movie, I was kind of expecting her to have something, like
Uh
at
huh.
least some kind of development. And then
Yeah.
she has one line, she gets killed off after she's reintroduced, and it just kind of feels underwhelming in that regard. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, I could have even appreciated something more reactions out of Yelena about that. Like, she does react, she does, but I think
Yeah.
if she kind of had that long-standing relationship with Taskmaster
Mm-hmm.
from the Black Widow organization, it's like, well, I feel like that should have been more of a point of tension in the movie, between her
Mm-hmm.
and Ghost, maybe. But I'm just kind of speculating there.
Yeah, I don't remember. Did Yelena have a relationship with Taskmaster from the Black Widow program, or
Sh-
did they just fight a little bit in that movie? It's been so long, and that movie is pretty forgettable in a lot of
yeah,
ways.
I'm not gonna rewatch it, so I'm not gonna dive
Yeah.
deep to try and figure that out. But I think that what it was like Taskmaster was like the more elite killer or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, so maybe she was just kind of more covert ops and no one really knew about her. But like, again, they were still kind of in the same organization.
Yeah.
So maybe they could have had some relationship, but who knows? This is all speculation. And I get
Right.
why they probably wrote her out of the move, like just cut her out in general out of Thunderbolts,
Mm-hmm.
because her character at the end of the day is very similar to Yelena and Natasha. Like there are all
Mm-hmm.
these trained assassins from a very young age who attended this really terrible institution, like, just how different would her story have been from Yelena? Would it have added anything? Like, I don't know how much it would have added to the story to
Mm-hmm.
go over that. That being said, her character has definitely endured some trauma, and trauma is kind of
Right.
a main part of this movie, and so is mental health. So it's like, this character that's only had 15 minutes of screen time and 3 lines across 2 movies. It's like, whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of odd because it's like the weird thing is like she's not needed in the rest of the movie,
Yeah.
and maybe they wanted a shocking moment at the beginning because it just kind of begs the question, unless you're trying to like establish, oh, anyone can die, which no one else dies. Then it's like, why include her at all and kill her off? Maybe you could have saved that character for in the
Yeah,
future when someone had an idea, but it's
exactly.
okay. Um,
I know. Yeah.
but
And like, and like what you were saying too, like I was expecting her to die in this movie just based
mhm.
off the marketing materials and everything, so it wasn't a huge surprise to me. And honestly, she died earlier than I was expecting, because I was probably just because of shit I've seen on my Instagram feed or whatever. But like, I was
Mhm.
expecting like Sentry to just kill her, just like rip her in half or something like that, just to
Mhm.
show his true potential and how outmatched they are. Like, that could have been
Right.
a pretty like bombshell moment.
Mhm. Yeah. One other character thing that I do really love at this, I love that Bucky in this movie is essentially written as the adult in the room. He's
Mm-hmm.
in Congress now too, which is hilarious. sort of hope they keep this element of his character going forward, of him trying to both be a superhero and be a congressman. I enjoyed the
Hmm.
few scenes he has with Wendell Pierce, who's another congressperson. Like they're at that gala, or not gala, but like party together, and then they're kind of arguing about their different approaches because Bucky's frustrated by the bureaucracy of like
Hmm.
working system, and Wendell Pierce's character, I forget his name, but it's like, yes, read the packets, buddy, Bucky.
Yeah.
It's so great because Bucky is like, just his entire life he's been like a man of action. In most cases, an assassin. So he's just like,
Yeah.
look, we know she's lying. Let's just go do something about it. And then the guy's like, no, we have to have evidence and present it at a hearing on the committee.
Hmm. We need to respect the due process.
Yeah.
We gotta do this very bureaucratically, and he's just not
Mhm.
used to that. I think that, yeah, that was so funny, and it's interesting to see Bucky in kind of this role now of like, because Steve's not there anymore, so he's got to kind of
Right.
like be that person in the room who's been like, okay, I've been through this before. Let's get the
Hmm.
children in line. Let's get a plan together.
Yeah. And he has a fun dynamic with Valentina's like second in command, like assistant or whatever, where he's
Hmm.
trying to sort of work her and get her to turn on Valentina. So
Hmm.
he's trying to like stick within the system in his own way too, but then he eventually just decide. Well, I guess through her lead, he goes off and just becomes action hero man again. You get the nice visual. Someone said online too. It's like, what's nice about this movie is it's made by someone who wants to reference films that are not just Marvel films, and you get
Hmm.
very clear homage shot and sequence to Terminator 2 and Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible, but like
Oh, so
especially
good.
Terminator 2, like he's riding the motorcycle with the sunglasses, he steals the shotgun, and then the shot where he shoots at one of the cars is pretty much the exact shot of Arnold with young John Connor from Terminator 2 holding out the shotgun in the LA River.
Right.
So it's just like, oh, it's nice that we get some like shots that are interacting with the visual language of film outside of just referential stuff to this franchise. But
Yeah,
he's
right.
he's very much a supporting character here, and he's the one who has his shit together the most, which I think
Hmm.
works for him at this stage. Like you were saying, he's been through this for a long time.
Yeah.
And he's kind of in a better place.
Yeah, and like at a certain point too, it's like, um, he's been in like, I don't know, at least five Marvel movies at this point, and it's
More
like,
than that, I think.
yeah, or something like that. And he's had his own TV show, so it's like, how much more character development can you get out of this guy? So
Yeah.
yeah, you do kind of need to like kind of push him into the back and be the person who's more supporting. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think it really works for his character at this stage in his life. Um, One thing I do have to ask though is, why the fuck would Bucky run for Congress? I
I don't know, something to do.
I guess, yeah, maybe he's like, I gotta change my image. I gotta do something with my time that's not
Hmm.
just being an assassin and doing all this fucking crazy action stuff. Like maybe, yeah, he thought maybe it would be a good productive way to create positive change in the world,
Hmm.
and maybe it's not a terrible pitch for a congressman, all things considered,
Yeah.
even though he is kind of an agent of Hydra or whatever it was for a while. It's like,
Yeah,
he's an American war hero who served in World War II and has protected the Earth on
exactly.
multiple occasions. Like, yeah, I think I'd probably vote for that guy.
Well, I was just thinking too, like as you were talking, I mean, it's just that's probably why they felt like it was a fun direction for his character because like so many military veterans run for Congress after
Mm-hmm.
they've served, and maybe that was like their approach. But it is funny just thinking about like how that campaign must have gone and the fact that his opponent had like the best oppo research imaginable. He could have been like, guys, he's literally a Soviet assassin. He's the Winter Soldier. He's the Soviet assassin. He
Mm-hmm.
killed Howard Stark. Like he had all of that. Or they had all of that information on Bucky, and they still fucking lost the race.
Yeah, you fumbled that easy win.
Hmm. I
um,
wonder what it was that took him out.
yeah, who knows? But yeah, it's very funny to see Bucky in this position though, because he gets immediately
Hmm.
frustrated by bureaucracy. He probably should have seen that coming, but hey, whatever. Uh, that's fine. It makes for a pretty funny premise, all things
Hmm.
considered. And
Yeah.
I like I agree with you, Dylan. I like the idea that he is still a congressman at the end. They leave that
Hmm.
ambiguous. I would like to see that moving forward because that would
Yeah.
be something very interesting to see of like how do you balance the roles of being this kind of this on a superhero team, and then also, oh, I'm also the congressman for Virginia, and I gotta go to the House
Yeah.
for
Have
the
a important
legislative
vote.
session for a few months.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like like you know how Spider-Man is always like juggling his social problems and trying to be a superhero. It'd be funny to see a version of that, but the personal problems you're dealing with is like trying to get a bill passed or something. You can get the votes whipped in time.
Or you're getting like a call from like the Avengers, and you're like, I really can't take this because I'm filibustering right now.
Oh my god.
I cannot leave. I have to keep talking.
Hmm. Yeah, he like signals him. It's like, look, you need to bring the fight to the capital. I need you to.
Oh, that'd be funny.
Yeah. I mentioned in non spoilers that the movie does have like an odd structural thing. And what I meant by that is it doesn't really have a second act in a lot of
Hmm.
ways. I guess where it would be like, because the second act is usually where like they in this type of movie, it's like it's where you find your all is lost moment, like everyone's at their lowest point and they kind of have to rally and get back up. And I guess that is sort of the part right after they fight the Sentry for the first
Hmm.
time. But it's just over so quickly and transitions so seamlessly into the final act of the movie that it almost doesn't feel like an act in and of itself. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It. But what's weird is that it doesn't seem to like hurt the movie really at all. It's just not really there that much, and the movie's good enough to survive without it somehow. But
Yeah, I'd agree, and I think what makes it transition so well is that as soon as they have as they're having their lowest point, it's like immediately Century is flipping basically to
hmm.
the void. So it's like, okay, the terror has arrived finally. And
Yeah.
so it's
Hmm.
like, okay, yeah, we don't need to dwell on this second act lull for very long. It's like
Right.
go, 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 go.
Yeah. And I guess they have all the beats that you would expect in that. It's like they kind of have their little argument. Yelena blows up on everybody, and then Alexei kind of like talks her up, and then it's just like it just all happens in the span of like 3 minutes instead of 15, I
Yeah,
suppose.
for
Um,
sure.
yeah, but I think like what really makes the movie work is that it has a thematic like idea about mental health and it sticks to it and it centers the entire movie and its choice of characters and how it uses them around that.
Hmm.
Um, and like I remember when this movie first got announced, everybody was like, "That's not the Thunderbolts. It's just a bunch of assassin characters. It's all the like hitmen and just gun people who punch. That's so boring."
Hmm.
I hate because it's like what makes movies interesting isn't their powers necessarily, it's the personalities of the characters and how they interplay with each other. And I was pretty on board with this cast from the jump just based on the different personalities that we were going to see at play here.
Hmm.
And I think it used them really well with this idea of mental health and confronting like past mistakes and past trauma. It did a really great job at handling this as a theme, especially with Yelena and Bob. um, Florence Pugh is back once again as Yelena something. I don't know. Black Widow's, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. This is the heart of the movie. This is the core of it, and yeah, I think that Elena and Bob are kind of our protagonists in a way. I think
Mm-hmm.
Florence definitely is, as Yelena. And yeah, she did a great job in this role once again. And I think she did a fantastic job of emoting these emotional struggles that she was experiencing. It all felt very
Mm-hmm.
genuine because we haven't seen this character since I think it was Hawkeye, where she was hunting down Hawkeye because she was
Mm-hmm.
like, "You killed my sister," and all this, and she's
Yep.
still processing this at this time in the
Mm-hmm.
Thunderbolts. Like she's like, "Yeah, he didn't kill her, but I still have this grief, this dread, these
And all
regrets."
the other
And
stuff she did in the Red Room and stuff
mm-hmm,
like. Yeah.
yes, so it's like she's got all this baggage on her shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
and she comes across Bob, and Bob's got a lot of baggage as well. And I think they did a good job of connecting on screen, the two of them. I
Mm-hmm.
think Yelena, her character, she was able to recognize the despair and emotional turmoil that Bob was experiencing. They were
Mm-hmm.
able to kind of bond over that very early on, and just kind of liked that through line that they kind of just
Yep.
recognized the regrets in each other, and those mental health struggles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Yelena and Bob are like, it's an ensemble movie for sure, but Yelena and Bob are the primary focus. Like, different characters are going to have to get different amounts of screen time for this to work, and Yelena is really the protagonist here, and I think she works great in that role. But all of these characters have pretty serious issues and major things they regret. We've seen them for a lot of them. Like, Bucky obviously was the Winter Soldier. John Walker killed an unarmed man in public and lost the mantle of Captain America very
Hmm.
quickly. And
Yeah,
then in like struggling with that, ended up losing his family as well, as we find out in this. Um, let's see what else. Ghost is the one that we probably get the least from. She was I think a secondary villain in Ant-Man 2.
yes, yeah.
I guess her trauma is just like her superpower just completely fucked her body up, and it took forever of like growing up in labs to be able to like even exist. But I think
Yeah,
yeah.
and then I just feel like probably she's been manipulated by Valentina,
Mm-hmm.
since we last saw her, into just kind of becoming this hitman in a way that's never fully elaborated, I think. But
Right. Yeah, and I think the movie does a good job with John Walker as well, because he's kind of, and we talked about him in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, obviously, where he debuted, and he's just kind of, I think the way I described him in that, it's when he's introduced, he's like if if Tommy Lee Jones had gotten the final say on who would be Captain America instead of Dr. Erskine, and they went with the like big strong army man. Because remember in that
mm-hmm,
movie, the like Erskine's whole thing, it's like we don't just want a soldier to take up this mantle. It has to be like, I don't know, the little guy with the good heart, or I forget what he says. Doesn't matter. But like Walker is the military pick for the mantle, and he fucks it up. But I think this movie adds a lot more depth to him as
mm-hmm.
well, and like it kind of, he's still a douchebag. Like, he's a fucking asshole, which I
Oh
love.
yeah,
I love that moment at the beginning where Bob is just like, you were Captain America," and he's like, "What's so funny?" He's like, "You're an asshole." Kind of funny.
well, and Bob's right. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
John is he's a fascinating character, and I think this
Hmm.
movie added some dimensions to him, because yeah, he was kind of this archetype of this fallen hero in
Hmm.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and he does have a little bit of a redemption arc in that movie. But I think his real redemption is kind of here a little bit. Like, it
Hmm.
continues to build for him, and you get to see a little bit. You get a peek inside of his like mental health state, and it's just like you've lost everything at this point.
Hmm.
You don't have like a wife and kids anymore. Like, your status
Yeah.
is gone. Like, he's a complex character, and he's honestly one of the best ones they've had in the last 5 years. So would like
Yeah.
to see him moving forward in other things.
I I don't know the full context of this or even what comic it's from, but I've seen there's like a page in some Marvel comic where it's US agent John Walker and his team of whatever, and they're facing up against Daredevil for whatever reason, and he says something like, Murdoch like back away. I'm right with God or something like that. And then Daredevil responds, "If you were right with God, he wouldn't have sent the devil." And I just think that's pretty fucking hardcore.
Ooh, that's a good line. I like that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
But I think the best and most interesting way that it explores mental health in this movie is Bob's, I believe, bipolar disorder is what
I think
it's
so.
depicting here through his powers. But I think it really expresses itself in his powers in an interesting way. It's like he has these like highs of being kind of a Superman type, but then if he comes down from that, I guess, and descends into the void, and the void is just like this pit of emotional despair. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's visually it was inspired by the shadows left behind by people at
Yeah.
Hiroshima. And
Ooh.
yeah, the moment in the movie where Alexei saves that little girl and he's looking at her and just like saying, "Oh, you're gonna be all right," and then she gets
Oh,
shot in the void. It's like it got like audible gasps in the theater, and I don't remember the last time a Marvel movie did. Well, actually, I do. It was probably Infinity War
yeah.
that we got gasps in the movie theater at a Marvel movie,
Yeah.
but I thought it was effective, and
Yes, and it's kind of a shocking moment because at the time you're like you have no idea if the person who's been voided is alive or dead. Like if
mhm,
they're somewhere else or if they've just been disappeared forever. So
yeah,
it's like kind of this, oh my god, like actually like breathtaking moment. And yeah, I really Bob was a fascinating character in this
hmm
movie, and I liked how the void was kind of this visual representation of his depression, of his grief, his self-hate, his
hmm
regrets, like, and how it just kind of spread everywhere.
yeah,
Like it just kind of consumes your life, it consumes everything around you. And I think that is basically like what some of these mental health struggles are. Like when you're depressed, um,
hmm
when you have these kinds of struggles, like it's just going to eat away at you from the inside. It's going to make everything seem terrible, and like it's going to infect everything around you, the people around you, and it's just
hmm
going to spread and spread and spread. And it's a really effective visual representation of this movie. So the void, very cool concept. Love it.
yeah. And I love the way he looks when he's the void as well. It
Yes.
kind of keeps him in complete silhouette, except for the little golden eyes. And
Ooh.
I like too the when he's Sentry and he fights him. We'll talk about the fight in a little bit, but like, after the fight, Valentine's like, "Go finish them off. What are you doing?" He's like, "Why?
Yeah.
Why they're not a threat? Why would I do that?" And then she's like, "You have to listen to me." And he's like, "Why? Why do I listen to you?" I love
Mm-hmm.
and then she's like, "No, I don't know about God." And I'm like, "No, you said I was all the Avengers rolled into one, and there's at least one God on there." Like
Yeah.
I kind of liked how much she was shitting in her pants a little bit at that.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, oh fuck, oh my god,
Oh my god.
what have I done?
Did I just make a Homelander? Oh no.
Yeah, yeah, and but I also love like going back to the theme of mental health. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Love the way they resolve it. I think it's super great and a healthy way to look at it. Like you navigate your mental health issues with love and the support of the people who care about you, and you return the favor to them. It's a mutual thing. Like at the beginning, Yelena tells him it's like, "Oh, that those feelings you gotta push them down. Push them all the way down
Mm-hmm.
and move on." And that's wrong, obviously. And it's a simple little arc, but it's a good arc that it's like, no, they win by all hugging each other.
Yeah, friendship wins the day this time, and
Yeah.
it makes sense why it works.
hmm Yeah.
it's it's about the support system that helps you out, and it's totally the right message. Because it's like going to therapy. You know, you can't just repress your emotions and stuff them down,
hmm
especially if they're like very traumatic, like emotions and feelings and experiences. You can't just repress them. You need to actually process them. You need
Right.
to rely on your support system to work through those emotions and experiences. You need to get it off your chest. You need to talk about it with people. And even that
hmm
simple act, like it's not going to undo the damage, but it's going to help you heal. And it's the right step in the right direction. So it's the right message for the movie. And it's an appropriate message, and it's the truthful message.
Yep. And then another thing the movie does well, better than a lot of the recent Marvel fare, is the action scenes. There are just a couple really well done ones, I think. The one that we mentioned towards the beginning, where they're all in the vault trying to kill each other, and the camera kind of follows the knife and does some little playful movements with it. Yeah, them getting out of the vault as well is pretty fun.
Yeah, it's very creative and original, where it's like, oh, we're in this very precarious situation and none of us can fly, so we need to use our brains and our brawn to get out of here. And it feels like oh god, I'm blanking on what the movie is, but I feel like I've seen this before, where it's just like a shoddy escape plan where they're just like, I have no idea what to do. So it's that's what it was reminding me of, Emperor's New Groove. When
oh my god, you're right. Yeah.
When they're back to back and they're climbing up, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, and then you also get the, like, at the end when Yelena's trying to save Bob, she has to charge across the room, and Florence Pugh is doing all these like flips and stuff, dodging all the furniture that the Void is trying to throw at her. I think that was really cool.
And I like all when they're in the Void, and they're going kind of from room to room through their traumas, like, and how they're transitioning from room to room. I think that was just really creative, cool way to get from place to place, and each room was interesting too.
Yeah, I like the joke too when the rest of the team shows up, having already, gone through their trauma boxes, whatever it was, and then Bucky's like, "Oh, I have a great past, so it's fine."
Yeah, that's a good one. And yeah, I think one of the best action scenes in the movie is just like when the Thunderbolts fight Sentry in the Avengers Tower, which is a nice callback. I'm glad that we haven't even mentioned that. Just like it's in the same location as the first Avengers film, and now we're here however many films later, over like 20 later, and it's kind of a nice poetic theme there coming back there, and I just think it's a cool fight sequence overall.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but it kind of starts foreshadowing what Valentina's objective is here and what her plan is. Sentry program. But you have a note about the Void. You want to get into that?
Yeah, sure. Before I do that, I just wanted to say one other thing that I liked. It is an action scene. Like all the rubble's falling from above on New York City, and they're not trying to like hurt anybody. Like they're not attacking anybody. They're just playing defense at this point. Like all the Thunderbolts, and they're just like protecting people from the rubble. And it's just like, yeah, you don't see that a lot in some of these Marvel movies these days, where they're actually trying to protect civilians in this very dramatic fashion.
Yeah, but I mean, you're right too. It like, even when we do see it, which like the first Avengers, they make a huge point about it, right? And then in Age of Ultron, even more so. But it's like, you're right. This is different in that they're not fighting anybody. They are just saving, which is kind of a neat little thing. I love that Red Guardian is like carrying that big metal thing and just like, just get under here, run with me.
I'll help you. Yeah, I like that. My thing about the Void, it was just a question. So once the Void is figured out, whatever, Bob snaps out of it, everyone comes back to life. Everyone's unvoided. Everyone is reappears where they were, I'm assuming, or kind of the vague general area. So what happened to the helicopter pilots?
Oh, buddy.
Like, they got voided and the helicopters crashed. So where/how did these pilots come back? Did they just return in the same spots they were at in the air? Because if they do, they're falling to their death. Or is it like they're where the helicopter crashed? Or I don't know. I'm thinking too much about this.
Also dead.
Yeah, like I feel like that those guys just died. So
yeah,
we can move on.
I don't think they made it. Yeah, you're right. They might not.
Well, that's just one thing we don't need to think about.
Yeah, but let's talk about the team.
Yeah, I mean, we already did kind of talk about them a little bit before, but yeah, I think with the exception of Ghost, Taskmaster, and Bucky, I think most of the other characters on the Thunderbolts got some great character development in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yelena, obviously, with her struggle was with depression and mental health, and the grief of losing her sister, and just like feeling so aimless in life. Red
Mm-hmm.
Guardian, it feels like, or Alexei, I should say, he's kind of got this complex relationship with Yelena, but he feels like he's just kind of stuck in arrested development in a way. Like he's not progressing. He's like trying to
Mm-hmm.
relive the glory days. He's doing this shitty fucking limo service, and he's just like, I just want to be a hero again. He can't really
Mm-hmm.
like snap out of it, but him and Yelena get some good time in this movie together.
Yeah, I think their dynamic is really great. It's a great father daughter relationship. I love how embarrassed she is by him when he first shows up.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Yeah, she's just like, please ignore him. He's not.
Yeah,
He'll go away.
yeah, and then yeah, it's like, and he's the one who kind of gives her the big hero speech at the end, which is what she needs. I think their dynamic is really good, and it's interesting too because we said earlier, or I said earlier, that Black Widow is a pretty forgettable movie, and it is, but it provided both of these characters to the franchise, and both of these characters are pretty great. So
I'll
thanks, Black Widow.
I like both of them. Yeah, thank you,
Mhm.
Black Widow, for that. And yeah, John Walker, like we said earlier, he's got this. He's dealing with the fallout from his fall from grace as Captain America. He's kind of
Mhm.
disgraced. Like his decisions and uh, Falcon and the Winter Soldier have just drastically reshaped his life, and it's
Mhm.
just he's got a terrific storyline, and I want to see more of it. And then Bob, I think he's a great addition to the MCU in general. I really like him
Mhm.
and his whole vibe, and he gets
Yeah.
by with a little help from his friends, which is
Mhm.
always a nice little treat in there.
Yeah. You know who? Because he's played by Lewis Pullman, who he's in Top Gun Maverick. But I
Oh,
didn't. He's actually Bob in Top Gun Maverick as well. That's his name in that movie. um, but but he's
cool.
I can't believe I never put two and two together. He's Bill Pullman's son. Bill Pullman, the president from Independence Day.
Oh, interesting. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that. Hmm.
But also the original. It didn't work out for scheduling reasons, I believe. But Stephen Yun was supposed to play Sentry
Hmm.
originally. I believe he worked with Jake Schreier on Beef, and I guess
Hmm.
it just didn't work out timing wise. But you can see like kind of blurry concept art of him in the Sentry costume as well.
Yeah, he would have been good in this too, but I really like this actor.
Hmm.
Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a good job. But yeah, like we mentioned earlier, I think that Ghost and Bucky do not get much, if any, development in this movie.
Hmm.
I guess they get some development, but like they just kind of feel like the extra characters who are important. They are important to the story. Don't get me
Hmm.
wrong, but they just don't get the same spotlights as the others. Um, and I feel like this is less of a problem for Bucky because we've already had so much
Right.
time with him over the years. But like Ghost, she needs some more development, you know.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think they ultimately chose to center the movie primarily around Yelena and Bob, and I think that was the right choice.
Yes.
Which and it ultimately the movie works fine with Ghost as she is, but like I I think I'll remember her more after this movie than I remembered her after Ant-Man 2, so that's good. But yeah, film could use a bit more. I think the new costume is pretty good, and I think
Sure.
she's fun enough, but you're right. She's kind of underdeveloped.
Yeah. But totally fine for this movie, and I'm assuming she'll be in additional projects moving forward. So she'll have some
Probably.
time.
Hmm. All right, let's talk about Valentina Allegra de Fontaine,
Dave
um,
Fontaine.
played by Julia Louis Dreyfus.
Uh, she's such a great antagonist. I just love this character. And Julia,
Hmm.
she just kills it. She kills it as Valentina. Um,
Hmm.
I I just love her. She's so funny and she's so quick. She plays the character really well. And I had this thought when we were doing the show notes that I was like, you know, I've never been a big Seinfeld fan, but wouldn't it be really funny if in an MCU scene with Valentina, she's introduced to somebody like a new superhero or just like some other guy, and it turns out to be Jerry or like Jason. They're just like, like I think that'd just be kind of funny. But they're probably
Yeah.
never gonna do that.
Of the original Seinfeld cast, I'd say Jason Alexander is probably the least controversial. So maybe bring him
True.
in.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, she's a fun antagonist, and she's fun in the way that she's not like a physical antagonist. She is a agent of the government. She is, I mean, Nick Fury is a morally shady guy in a lot of ways, but she's kind of like the dark version of Nick Fury, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it feels like that she's kind of the person who's like, yeah, we'll have these secret operations that are
Mhm.
really like human rights violations in multiple ways, and I don't know if Nick Fury would ever do that. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I think it depends on the version of him, but
sure.
he in Winter Soldier, he was developing that aircraft carrier project that would detect threats before they even happen. I believe was the
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
not great.
no, that's it.
Yeah, and like I think the only other thing with her character that I kind of wanted in this movie was for her to
Mhm.
have that comeuppance at the end. Um, it kind of feels like she got off scot-free for all the shit that she did, even if the Thunderbolts have some leverage over her. But
Mhm. Yeah, but I like it because it feels like her whole motivation the entire movie is literally just saving her ass from all the
yeah,
illegal shit she was doing. And she'd already bought Avengers Tower and was like doing something with the Sentry program. We'll talk about it in a second. But it's like, yeah, it's not. She doesn't get caught. But I think I think it sets up for fun stuff going
sure.
forward. And a different type of Nick Fury to Avengers dynamic with a new batch of characters that will be fun to explore, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Um, can I just say real quick though that I don't understand why anybody in the MCU lives in New York City anymore. Um, just logistically, it's like every other year the city endures another massive attack or a crazy
Mm-hmm.
series of supernatural events. And I was like, even in this movie, there's this unstoppable black void that just like consumes all of New York.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like, it's just kind of crazy to me. It's a small minor detail. It really doesn't matter. The city is clearly unsafe and everyone needs to move out ASAP. But I'm sure that Disney and Marvel, they probably get like, you know, so much money or just like great deals to just like, yes,
mm-hmm.
please film every single movie in New York. You need to have at least a part of your movie in New York. And they probably
I
just save some
well,
money that way.
I think that's actually just a holdover from with Marvel the comics because
Oh, yeah.
in DC it's kind of like not every a lot of heroes kind of operate in their own city and
Yeah.
they're usually the fictional cities, right? Like Batman's in Gotham, Superman's in Metropolis, Green Arrow has Star City, the Flash has Central City, but in New York, in the Marvel comics, like a lot of characters are just based in New York. I think the Avengers are based there, Spider-Man's based there,
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic Four. I don't know if Doctor Strange in the comics is, but then you have like Daredevil as well. So it's just I think I want to say maybe Marvel Comics themselves were in New York, and a lot of
You're,
the writing and art
yeah.
staff when Marvel was first really big were just like kind of writing what they know, and it's a symptom of that. But it is kind of funny that the result of that is that New York is just a complete shit show in the Marvel universe.
Yeah. Right. You're probably right though. I think
Mhm.
that yeah, that makes a lot of sense the more I think about
Yeah.
that.
Well, and even the X-Men are in New York, I think, but not in the city. I think they're in like Westchester or something.
I
Um,
couldn't tell
but
you.
yeah, but we've alluded to it already, and it's kind of the big little button on the end of this movie. The new Avengers. I don't know if you've seen on social media. They didn't wait a super long time to do it, but all the cast is like doing this thing, and all the posters are doing this thing where they're ripping off Thunderbolts on the poster to reveal the new Avengers written,
Mm.
which is I think it's cute. It's probably
Yes.
very confusing for the general audience, and I'm sure it's frustrating for people who didn't get to go opening weekend to just have that
Yes.
revealed. But I think it was a fun little twist. Like they find Valentina and she's like talking into this radio in like a really stiff artificial way, and you're kind of like, what the fuck is she doing? What's going on? And then
Hmm.
she behind the thing. It's like, oh, it's a press conference. The new Avengers. This was the plan all along. They saved you, and I liked it. I thought it was really funny.
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was a great. It was obvious move to rename them
Hmm.
to the New Avengers, but yeah, how they went about it was very creative, very original. All things considered, I liked it. I think the one thing that I don't know 100% how I feel is the
Hmm.
trademark battle that they allude to in the post credit scenes
Hmm.
between Sam Wilson and the New Avengers, because he's trying to form his own Avengers, and then they have the New Avengers, and so
Hmm.
it's kind of a fun concept where it's like to have superheroes fighting in court over a trademark name.
Yeah.
You could have She-Hulk there to like represent one side,
Okay.
which could be kind of fun, but it also feels a little silly and a little bit below Sam Wilson slash Captain America. Um,
Hmm.
but whatever.
Well, I
It's
mean,
fun.
it does follow on from where he left off in the last movie, though, because
Oh yeah.
remember he was struggling with the idea of bringing the Avengers back under the authority of the president. So he is probably frustrated by the concept of the Avengers as an institution existing under the direction of the fucking CIA.
No, that's a very good point. Mm.
So I think that we'll talk about the post credits in a second too, but I think just the idea of um, Valentina, like, because obviously these are not the people she would have selected for this team either, but she fucked up and she was caught with her pants down and she worked with the tools she had at the time.
True. Yeah.
And I think it was really fun. And I like the idea of Yelena leaning over and it's like, we own you now. And
We can tell everybody what happened. Like
mhm,
you're so fucked if we ever turn on you.
yeah, but I loved not even to the post credits scene, but I loved in the credits we get like the series of like newspaper headlines and article headlines about
Yeah.
what people think about them, and they're calling them the B Vengers, and not my Avengers. Who are these people? And one, it's very meta because like when this movie was announced and the lead up to it, everybody was kind of like, I don't, not everybody, a lot of people were like, I don't care about these characters. I don't know who they are. Why would I see this? They're marketing all these nobodies. It's like, oh, that's fun because that's the point. They're setting up this team of nobodies to be new flagship heroes in universe too. And then I think it was on
Hmm.
the Planet this week. They mentioned how it's kind of fun because that's kind of how real life publications talked about the start of the Avengers series. Because if
Mm.
you remember, like the biggest Marvel characters are the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man, and Marvel Studios didn't own the film rights to any of them when the MCU was starting, so they rolled out the B tier characters, the Avengers, to be
Mm-hmm.
the flagship franchise. So I think that's kind of a fun callback to that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very creative credit sequence
Mhm.
for sure, and we get some good post credit sequence or scenes
Yeah.
too.
My God, is it a nice change of pace that we're getting post credit scenes for something that we know we're actually going to see? Like, because that's kind of why they used to work back in the day.
Yeah.
It was you'd watch a movie, you'd finish the movie, and then there would be a scene that teased like the next project. And then in Eternals instead, we get Harry Styles showing up in armor, and he's
Hmm.
Thanos' brother. And then we're never gonna see any of those characters again now because the Eternals didn't do very well.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like damn it. I liked
Mhm.
the Eternals, but yeah, you're
I
totally
kind of
right.
liked it too.
But you're totally right. Like we would get these random ass scenes, and it's just like, okay, is this ever going to come back? Like at the end of like Doctor Strange, there's like, oh yeah, like his that other sorcerer. He's like, I want a
Charlize
world
Theron
without.
shows up.
Yeah, he's like, I want a world without sorcerers, and
Oh,
I guess
that
he,
one. He does
yeah,
well, kind of. a different version of him comes back. But at the end of Doctor Strange 2, remember we have that great ending where like, oh no, the third eye opened, consequences for his decisions earlier in the movie. And
Yep.
then the post-credit scene happens, and then Charlize Theron shows up, and then he opens the third eye, like, let's fucking go. And like, wait, what?
Yeah. It's like, what happened there?
You undercut your own cliffhanger for no reason.
Yep.
But yeah,
They love to do that.
The cereal aisle mid-credit scene I think was a bit of fun. It played into Alexi's sort of characterization throughout the movie. One, oh my god, he like felt that calling to be a hero, but also he seemed obsessed with making everything a marketing opportunity, and he had that thing about it's like be on the Wheaties box, and he was. But the meaty one, the really cool one, is the end credit scene. I believe the longest they've ever done, and you get them all sort of bickering. They're complaining about the fact that they aren't getting the recognition or like, whatever that they want. You see their new costumes, that idea about Sam not being on board, and then you get the cool reveal of the Fantastic Four coming into their dimension, I guess. And you get the illusion too that a lot of the other heroes are dealing with something in outer space, presumably Secret Wars, right? That's probably where everyone else is, and they weren't invited.
Like, we can't go because we're just like, we can't.
Nobody told us about the thing. And then Walker is such a dumb meathead. He's like, what do you mean space problem? We have plenty of space. It's like, outer space, you idiot.
Yeah. Well, and I like how Bob's just sitting there too, and he's just like, yeah, I did the dishes, but like, it's humorous, but it's also like, it's a great way to kind of remove your queen piece from the board temporarily, because
like
it's
his
like
power level, you mean?
Yeah, because he's god tier, he's Superman in this universe, but like since the Void can still kind of like take control of him, he's like, yeah, it's just better to not use my powers. So it's kind of like it feels like they're just going to use Sentry as kind of their ace in the hole every now and then. He's not always going to be there to be like, okay, I'm here to help, which I think is the appropriate level to use him.
Yeah, I think it's very smart too, even if they never use him as Sentry again, because it's like he is incredibly powerful, and it would be limiting to your story if you were able to just use him freely. We'll see if future filmmakers are as, you know, strong with using that. But it'd be kind of funny too if he just like ends up being the driver or something. Because, like,
Yeah.
I don't want to risk the Void, but like I'll drive the truck or something like that.
Well, it'll be fun. Yeah, it was a good post-credit scene, and yeah, I got high hopes for Fantastic Four. Yeah, and I liked Thunderbolts. I think this is a good, strong movie, good, strong entry in the MCU. Any final thoughts on your part?
No, I really recommend it. This is one MCU thing I can strongly say you should go see. It was really good, but
For sure.
Transition into some other stuff. Niles, what have you been watching the last couple weeks?
So I went to Trixie Mattel's Solid Pink Disco at the Ogden Theater in Denver. If you listen to our podcast and you like Trixie Mattel, she is still on tour, so look for a location near you. It was a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it. I've also been rewatching some things. The Little Hours I watched recently, and I've seen that one before. It's such a fun comedy. It's like 90 minutes. It's got really great comedic names: Fred Armisen, John C. Reilly, Alison Brie, Audrey Plaza. Like, really great, funny people in it, and it's I don't want to spoil too much of it, but it's just basically set in like 1300s Italian village monastery, and it's just so silly, so much fun. 2017. Definitely recommend that one. We also recently rewatched the unbearable weight of massive talent, which we've talked about on this podcast before. Episode
Mm-hmm.
36. I gotta say, that movie holds up on a second rewatch.
Okay.
But by far, the best scene in the entire movie is the drug trip. That is the best scene.
I need to rewatch it because I don't even remember that.
Oh, it's like they're tripping on acid and they're like,
Oh yes, and they're panicking on the wall, right? They're trying to.
yeah, that whole sequence of them just high on acid is the best part of the
Okay.
movie. I just wish that part of the movie was like a bigger portion of the movie. um, and only other thing that I've really been watching lately has just been some episodes of Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown. Uh, yeah, we watched some very interesting episodes where he took a trip to Antarctica, actually,
Oh.
which was just fascinating to learn about, like how everything operates down there,
Mm-hmm.
um, the rotations of people who like come in and out of like Antarctica, like how, yeah, just the logistics of like helping scientists and researchers in Antarctica do the things that they want to do. It's like, God, there's just so many things that you don't think about in that on that big sheet of ice. It was a very cool episode, and there were some we watched some other ones too, but that's the one that's standing out in my mind right now.
Neat.
What about you, Dylan? What have you been up to lately?
Continuing on with Michael Crichton's Pirate Latitudes, I'm closing in on the end of that. Enjoying it. It's a good, quick, pirate story read.
Cool.
I also went to a 20th anniversary screening of Revenge of the Sith last week,
Ooh.
and that was a lot of fun. I hadn't seen that movie in theaters for 20 years, so it was kind of fun to do that. And I will say, like, we talked a lot in the past about George's overuse of CGI and kind of some boring shot choices and stuff like that, but like visually, Revenge of the Sith holds up pretty well,
Yeah.
especially for how much digital effects is used in that.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of fun. I have the same problems I had with it last year when we did our review on it, but it was fun to see it on the big screen again, completely
Cool.
full theater on a Monday night too. So it was like it was
Wow.
it was really interesting hearing Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos make a comment about how like the movie theater is an outdated mode of storytelling, which is like, okay, that's a very self-serving thing for you to say. But he says that the same weekend, like Sinners had an amazing weekend too at the box office, and Revenge of the Sith was like making, I think, $25 million on a
Oh,
release weekend.
wow. That is
Yeah, and
insane.
it's insane. It's like no people, and with that, it's like they could have stayed home and watched that movie, right? Everybody owns it or has it on streaming now, but it's like no, people wanted to go out and watch it. People love the fucking movie theater, so
Yeah.
I wish studios would value it more. I have also been watching the new season of The Last of Us. I think it's pretty good. Some fans of the game are saying it's like making some odd choices and changing the context of some scenes and stuff like that, and that
Mm-hmm.
it's working as well as the game. I can understand that criticism. I'm enjoying the show for what it is, but I don't disagree with the points being made. But maybe we'll talk about that when the season's over as well. And then lastly, I have been watching season 2 of Andor, which
Mm.
is phenomenal, and I think it'll be done in time for our next episode. So TikTok, Niles.
Yeah, I got to get on that. Start watching it.
it's it's it is at least as good as season 1 so far. It's
Oh,
on
that's
par
awesome.
and it's so well made. I am still on the fence about the new release cadence of 3 episodes a week because last season was 1 episode a week, and I think I don't know. It still works, but and it's interesting too because each 3 episode arc jumps a year. So
Oh,
yeah. So it's structured a little differently and it feels a little different, but it's still the same show and it's just as good and everybody
cool.
remains amazing in it. So I'm excited to
Totally.
talk about that. But yeah, that is going to do it for us this week, I think.
Yeah. Thank
We'll
you
see
all so
y'all
much
back
for
in-
listening.
See you back here in 2 weeks for probably Andor. Niles, where can people find you online?
You can follow me online at Niles on Instagram at Niles Got No Styles. What about you, Dylan? Where can people follow you online?
On Instagram at DylanD1026, on Twitter at D-Day Movies, on YouTube at D-Day Movies. You can find both of us here at Play Pause Rewind on YouTube and your podcast platform of choice. You can also find us on our second channel, Play Pause Rewind Videos. That is where the latest Rewind lives. Go check that out if you've got time. You can watch it in multiple sittings if you have to. I understand. Won't be upset. But everybody, have a good time. Next 2 weeks, stay safe out there. And we'll see y'all in the next episode. Goodbye.
Bye.